Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you for joining our Fortify or Unite to Fortify webinar series. My name is Chris Igleson. I'm the CEO of 360 SOC. I'll be your host today. Well, today we're talking about one of those topics that keeps coming up consistently. Repeatedly I get asked this question, do you offer penetration testing? What kinds of penetration testing do you offer? Are there are there any other is there a big difference between penetration testing and vulnerability scanning? Is there is how regularly, another question that gets quite often, how regularly should we be doing this? So my topic of today is going to be about penetration testing. Today we're going to talk about penetration testing engagements. We're going to talk about what those look like, whether it's one time or as a service. What types of penetration testing exist out there, and how does 360 SOC address it? So to kick things off here and just to go ahead and get the webinar started again, my name is Chris Igleson. Our organization 360 SOC, we're an award-winning managed detection response, SOC as a service, penetration testing, vCISO, and a consulting cybersecurity company / practice. 85% of our revenue is focused around the Security Operations Center. So as a partner selling our 360 SOC services, please bring me any of those opportunities that are for MDR, SOC as a service, pen testing, vCISO, or anything that really might be a fit within the security department. So to dive in here deep, taking our introduction of 360 SOC a little bit further, if this is the first time that you've ever joined a call here with us, thank you for joining. I really appreciate your time. I can't thank you enough for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Just going back to kind of 360 SOC as a whole. So what do we do? So 360 SOC, we're the number 8 ranked service provider on the globe. We're a fully compliant organization. We have a unique platform when it comes to SOC as a service. It's all back-ended through a mobile application, extending response for our customers to anywhere, any device, anytime. For us, we are an all US-based organization, so our SOCs are here in the physical United States. Everything in our platforms mapped to MITRE. If you're a SOC customer of ours, you do get penetration testing as a service as well as part of your engagement. Maybe you're just looking at for an organization, though, to possibly do one-time penetration testing, whether it's for yourself or for your customer, client. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. So from a 360 SOC perspective, we kind of branch penetration testing into a couple different arenas. So when it comes to ad hoc engagements, we do ad hoc engagements when it comes to penetration testing on internal, external, web app, mobile app, and phishing and social. As a service, we do internal, external, and web app. Currently today, we do not do mobile app as a service. Coming up here in the future, we will be releasing in a licensable format our proprietary mobile app penetration testing software where we can read things like an SDK file in 45 seconds and provide an output, helping streamline those efficiencies for those teams that are developing, managing, and the lifecycle part of the application delivery. Most of the engagements, though, that we're getting through the channel and through the partner community, though, are still traditionally focused around the 3 arenas: internal, external, and web app. Out of the engagements that we get for internal, external, and web app, I would say for every 5, 1 will be mobile. Those mobile tests are great for you as a partner to facilitate them. It's a collaborative working engagement, just like all of our other penetration testing engagements. And I think inevitably it ends up being a quality engagement. Web application testing is also available, whether that's a homegrown app or an app that you've delivered inside your environment that you have permission to be testing. Additionally, as I mentioned, we offer ad hoc and as a service type models here. If you're looking at doing an as the service model, what that looks like here is for web apps and for external environments, that's going to be weekly. And for the internal and the more comprehensive testing. The things that are going to take a little bit longer might involve some customer involvement. Those are going to be facilitated once a month or once a quarter, depending on your schedule. So if I'm a partner out there, why is penetration testing valuable to sell? Well, it comes down to this. Anytime that you're doing some type of like an audit service or validating, a customer environment, it's creating visibility for you as the partner in order to be able to then offer other services. For us here at 360 SOC, when we're doing penetration testing, our goal is not to, then facilitate and backdoor product. Does that happen? Absolutely. Does somebody, like working with us and then want to add on other services? Sure. That all of that's common. But for us to go up there and poach that engagement, not necessarily. It's one of those things where I think, penetration testing, it's great to do. It should be done regularly, probably more regularly than most people are doing it. But, what's important about that is, trying to decipher for your customer, is this going to be like a one-time thing? Is your customer saying to you, I need to do my annual test. I rotate my testers each year, so I need to pick a new one. Or are these people looking for a partner that not only will do the testing, but then also can offer other services and maybe is willing to push forward some of those services? When it comes to running discovery calls for penetration testing, a couple things to remind yourself as a partner. If you're gathering external data, the best data I can get is the external assets. They have, 5 URLs, 5 domains. They have, 2/28, a /29, and every other location has a /32. We've got some external facing services in these locations. We'd like those tested too. In a cumulative format, if we can get that information from you as the partner or you as the customer, depending on the audience, I think that helps streamline the process. These penetration testing are very broad when it comes to assets. Like the price is very similar from 0 to 50 for us, 0 to 1,000, 1,000 to 5,000, 50 to 250. We're really flexible because, inevitably a lot of these asset or these external facing hosts that you might own, you might not even have services there, but we're going to need to test those. So we'll want to get that all into the scope. What are the things that we're typically finding out there in penetration testing? Well, I can give you numerous different things, whether it's on the internal side and it's, working our way all the way down to finding, weak protocols and services, doing, things that are like patch the hash attacks, brute forcing, manipulating, scenario-based attacks. All of that kind of stuff is definitely in scope. What I'm finding most common out there, though, is I'm finding customers that are asking for more use cases. Sure, come in and do a penetration test, assume that, I let you on my network. I didn't give you a credential. I allowed you to try to pivot, do whatever you can. Inevitably, that's going to move into a spot where you're either going to get to go somewhere or not. If you can't go anywhere, then even more assistance typically comes to play. I think that assisting is extremely valuable because at some point, you have to assume that if somebody does get on the network and they do get a credential, what's going to happen? So many people I talk to and IT peers and security folks I talk to reference, well, the scenario it isn't really because you still got to get the device on the network. Well, unless you've put measures in place to assume a device is not going to come on your network, there's still a likelihood that potentially it could. It could happen through VPN, or it could happen through some other avenue that maybe we're not thinking of. Maybe, session theft, or, maybe it's not so much, somebody phished or somebody clicked on a link and downloaded a file and it created a shell of my device. When it comes to application testing, web app, we can take this a little bit further for your clients or for you as the client. What I mean by this is, we can do your traditional penetration testing, but we can also do things like code review for you as well. So if you do have any additional scope, some more granular scope when it comes to web apps, mobile apps, things like that, we could be a good fit there. Web apps are priced by the app. So, it is good to know how many different web apps they have. We've got 5 homegrown apps that we deliver to services that are internal and our clients log into. Okay, cool. So we'll want to, put a bundle together to test the 5 apps. A lot of customers end up on externals. They struggle to differentiate the difference between, the external penetration testing and specific external web application testing or web testing just in general, things like websites and, for example, WordPress, hitting testing APIs, doing all that kind of stuff. The additional thing to note here when it comes to penetration testing is I always like to ask customers about the vulnerability scanning. One thing that's nice about 360 SOC and our penetration testing is that we do backdoor the vulnerability scanning for you too as well. So we'll give you those reports. You'll get all that data. During internal testing, you'll get multiple trends there too as well. So you can actually see tickets facilitated, which is nice. The questions I'm asking my customers and prospects are obviously, when was the last time you did this? Have you ever done this? When you did this, what were the results? Did you see value? Did you expect? Did you only get findings that you expected? Were you expecting a different type of output than what you received? These are all great questions when you're scoping penetration testing, because every penetration tester's report is going to be a little bit different. Their writing style might be a little different. Their template could be possibly different. One company is a little different from another. But a lot of us are using common tools, and we're all common best practices or practices, depending on what we're testing. And I think that's something that can be addressed both, when you're looking at, like we just brought up that conversation earlier, we're talking about, my tester, I like to rotate a tester every single year, get a different opinion, right? If you actually talk to the auditors, are they saying that that's more valuable? Or would they actually rather you see this doing this more frequently? If you're doing this more frequently and you're doing testing more frequently, are you not shifting the use case? Does the use case then shift to drift? Therefore, I'm actually looking for changes in controls from based upon my stated control? Possibly. So lots of value here in this conversation. The penetration testing conversations can be injected into any department, really, depending on where services are being delivered from. A lot of organizations deliver a lot of internal services, so there can be a great opportunity there. Phishing is the one that I don't highlight up here as much. We do a couple different things with social and phishing and vishing and such. More common in this space is using platform here, whether that's like a TNA platform or some other type of tool. For us, I love credential theft. I think it works great. Obviously, if I can harvest credentials, then I can dump the external data. So combining an external test with at least a credential theft can be quite valuable. Not only can we see if you're enforcing things like MFA, but we can also see if you're not, where we can get to. In addition, that gives me an ability to load those credentials that we know are active credentials up into our tools and then use those against you too as well. I think that can be valuable. Let's talk about cost. Average cost of an external pen test ranges from anywhere from $3,500 to somewhere around $8,500, and then goes up from there if you were huge. Tons of assets, tons of time. The typical external penetration test when we're talking to customers is 3 days of testing, 2 days of report writing. So a typical working engagement's about 5 days. The internal testing, that's slightly different. That internal testing is important because that's going to take a longer time period. Potentially, there might be some scenarios that are based there too as well. We typically like to scope the internals for somewhere between 5 and 7 days, and 3 days of report writing, inevitably making that about a 2-week project. Web apps are going to be more similar to the external penetration testing, unless we're doing things like code review. Mobile app testing, typically I'm scoping somewhere between 5 and 10 business days there. So again, that's going to be a little bit more align a little bit more with the internal testing. Mobile apps, we do those across all 3 platforms. That's Google, Android, and Apple, iOS there. When it comes to cost on an internal penetration test, we talked about external being somewhere between $300 to $3,500 and going up in as high as the 8,500s or higher. The internal testing typically starts at about 8,500 and can work your way up in as high as in the $50,000+ range, maybe even more, depending on the size of your organization. Web apps typically are between 5 and 7,500 an app. So that keeps you, kind of give you some budgetary numbers there. Bundling all this stuff together obviously provides discounts. Simplified pricing, which is cool with 360 SOC when it comes to adding penetration testing or penetration testing as a service. And how we do that is if we sell you, let's say it's a external and an internal test and the total cost is $15,000, you like it, you want to do it more regularly, you want to trigger that external test every week, and you want to do those internals monthly or quarterly or whatever that schedule looks like for your business. At that point, we have simplified pricing, 50% of what we charge you, and we'll continue to do it on a regular basis. When it comes to reporting, so we've talked about costs, we've talked about what they are, we've talked about time frames, questions to ask, and just rehashing those questions to ask. Obviously, it's timelines, assets, internal, external, clarifying what they're looking for, anything homegrown we should know about. Are we testing anything homegrown? And then, obviously the timeline when you're looking to achieve this. One thing I would say that's a little different from us here at 360 SOC, probably from every other pen testing firm, is we actually have working sessions in between. So if we do the first round of testing, come back with some results, those are some things that either you can remediate or possibly we can point you in the right direction to help remediate. At that point, what's important there is we'll actually, walk through that process. We'll give you a full report, but we'll actually then dump that data. And when we dump that data, we'll then go back through and redo the retesting for you again. And there's no additional cost for that. Our goal at 360 SOC is hopefully that the day you work with us, the day you continue on your next engagement with us, that you're always continuing to trend better. And whether it's, we've seen all kinds of crazy stuff. I've seen thermostats from home managed from corporate environments. I've seen default passwords on servers left. I've seen firewalls with management interfaces with default usernames and passwords. I mean, you do this long enough, you start to see just about them all. So obviously, when we do find these findings, we want to help you remediate them as soon as possible. As far as reporting is concerned, I talked about that. We provide the report, plus we also provide remnants as well. Things like, if we did any vulnerability scanning in order to facilitate what, we wanted to exploit or attempt to exploit, we provide all that data as well. We'll pull different data sets from the tools. We'll provide you that raw data as well. The finished report is a combination of more of like an executive report with a combination of technical. The technical is just technical enough to get the report and keep the report quality. But from a working standpoint, we provide you as the client or your client, if it's through partner, we provide you with working documents, so things that you can actually work off of, so it's not working off a PDF or a Word documented report. A lot of times customers, especially if you're like private equity or something like that, and you have lots of different brands and you're doing this in mass, you're testing a bunch of different brands, just be transparent with us on the reports, how many different reports. Like we have 5 URLs, we need 5 different reports, or, we need this all in one. We just want that out of the gate so that we understand how to do the testing, and does it make sense more to do individualized testing or test it as a whole and separate it out after? As far as reporting when it comes to the as a service model, the reporting in the as a service model is consistent with a once a month report. They will receive incident reports when there's specific changes or that, i.e. drift that could be found. And that's going to be available to you. And if you need anything ad hoc, to give you an idea, like, sure, these scans and this testing becomes scheduled, but like, for example, last year when Log4j came out, every penetration testing as a service customer, we include pen testing as a service in our SOC as a service bundle. So every one of those customers immediately, as soon as that Log4j vulnerability came out, it was like our ticketing system lit up with a Christmas tree. I mean, everybody wanted an ad hoc test. And, that's what these services are for. These things that come out in the wild, and, building engagements and waiting to pick a provider, it becomes hard. It's way easier if you already are working with someone and you already have a program that's backing, the programs you're trying to push forward as an organization. I hope today's call was beneficial. Penetration testing is one of those things that comes up quite often. It can be widely misunderstood. And I think that in any type of testing or doing audit services or validation services, the process, the transparency, and the working engagement side, I think, is the highest value in the engagement. All the rest of us, we all got tools. We all can run Kali. We all can, buy enterprise tools, and we can run the latest and greatest different exploits and such and tailor it to your environment. But that extra component of that working session, I think, is just extra value. And I think that's something that 360 SOC is doing a little differently. Please don't forget to bring me any of your opportunities. Please do not forget, if you have any questions, please reach out to me. My name is Chris Ickelson. I'm supported on this call by Tiana Hellick as well. Please reach out to us should you need anything. We appreciate your time today, and we'll see you in 1 month from now. The call next week, or excuse me, in 2 weeks is going to be canceled. I hope everybody has a wonderful holiday season, Christmas, Hanukkah, and a happy new year. Thank you for joining us in. We'll see you in 2025. Thank you so much.